Hey lovies, welcome back to my channel. So it is board exam season. I'm hoping you guys have started studying. Oh my goodness, it's almost that season where it's cold and no one wants to stay up. But really, guys, in order to do well for your board exams, you need to put in the extra work. I know it's cold. As I'm recording this video, believe me, my legs, my feet are freezing, but I'm doing this for you. So I will be posting bits and pieces of things that come in between our civil procedure that we don't necessarily put put our attention into, but actually at the end of the day they do come in. I mean, they do come in your exams, and then you're scratching your head like, okay, I think I know what should be done here, but you don't even have the correct term to name it or whatever. So I will be posting those 10-minute, not more than 10-minute videos, just so that you know it's just those bits and pieces that you need to know, man, in order for you to, in case it comes in the exam, you know what I mean. Nonetheless, let's get onto it. So for tonight, I have what we call a third party procedure. It is governed by Rule 13 of the rules. So what is a third party procedure? So, a third party procedure is a procedure that allows a party already involved in a legal action to bring an additional person into the dispute who may share liability or have interest in the same issue, right? So, what we are basically saying here is maybe I'm being sued as Sheila, right? And as I am being sued, I believe that, but no. Um, so and so should also come in. They should share in this liability. I cannot be held liable um for everything altogether as Sheila. There is someone else who was party to to this act, and I feel that it should be a 50-50 situation. That person should also be held accountable. So then we would say, okay, let's bring in a third party. Right. So that's what a third party procedure is in a nutshell. As I have mentioned, it is governed by Rule 13. So let's say we did not include this person when we instituted the proceedings. The person was not party to the dispute, but then mid-dispute, we are like, let's bring in this person. No, this person must also be held accountable, right? And then how do we do this? We do this by serving a third party notice on the person being brought into the case. Sorry about the noise. I am just cooking. So, what is the benefit of a third party procedure? Is basically to, instead of now having, let's say, okay, there's someone else that would have to be liable with myself and that person, instead of having now a dispute between that person and myself, separate proceedings, you then bring that third party, then it's under a single proceeding, avoiding multiple disputes so that you don't have to claim from me and then claim again from that person. You understand? You would just rather bring everything under one lawsuit, and then we ventilate the matter under one lawsuit. So that is the benefit of a third party procedure. When does a third party procedure apply? A third party procedure applies when a party claims that they're entitled to contribution or indemnification from a third party from any relief claimed against them in the main action. So as I have said, ne, so you are saying, let's say, I wish I could find a perfect example. Okay, let's say I built a house, right? So there was someone who was building the house and there was someone who's doing the roof. And then something goes wrong in the house and then I get sued, right? And then let's say the electric part of the house was done by someone. But in whatever gave rise to the dispute, there's an electrical fault. I cannot obviously be charged for an electrical fault. I can say, okay, fine. For the roofing part or the building part, I take accountability. But this electricity part, no, I was not the one doing the electricity. Please bring in someone else, George or so, who was responsible for the electricity part. Then George will be held accountable or indemnify me to the extent that is necessary regarding the electricity and things like that. So we will be basically, George and I will be sharing the liability, you know. So as I said, there's a damage. They this happened in terms of maybe the roofing and all that, and George did the electrical works. So the damage is one, but we know that okay, fine. This also is a result of the electricity being faulty and also my part in the building works, you know. So instead of me giving, carrying the whole burden, we're gonna share the burden, amongst myself and George, as the plaintiff tries to recover, right? The reason being is the question in between the dispute is the same, right? Maybe the house got burnt down or whatever because of my poor works, but also because of George's poor electrical works. So that's basically your third party procedure. Requirements of a third party procedure, obviously, it must be properly formatted in a legal document. You have to bring a notice. You must set down the nature and the ground of your claim, as well as the question or issue to be determined. You must be specific in terms of what you need the court to resolve for you, as well as state the claim. So remember, you'll be giving notice. You must state in your notice the nature of the nature and grounds on which you are bringing now a third party, the claim that is being the question or fact, and then the relief you are seeking to claim from the third party since you call them to the proceedings now. And then structure and the content of the claim. Your third party procedure will just follow the general rules established in terms of pleadings in court. You must ensure a proper legal format. It's your take notice, blah, blah, blah. You're bringing this party, all that. There must be a connection between the main action and the third party claim. You must demonstrate why the third party should be involved in the proceedings. You can't just speculate that Sheila was involved without you being sure that no, but basically there is a substantive claim that I have against Sheila. You can't just be speculative, and the does not entertain such things. And you must specify your desired outcome. Do you understand? You can't just call Sheila, but you don't know the relief that you want from Sheila. You don't do that. The court always, I mean, as lawyers, we know we exercise precision in everything that we do. And that starts with you being specific of your desired outcome, the relief that you are claiming. So an example of a scenario, let's say, and yeah, the perfect one, a car accident, right? I'm suing George for damages resulting from a car accident, right? George then says, okay, yes, I admit, but there is a mechanical fault, right? Which is a result of faulty brake repair. I just repaired my brakes 2 days ago, Sheila, and when I tried to brake at the traffic light or intersection, my brakes were not working. So they had a mechanical fault. So now can we call Tebogo, who is now the third party, the mechanic who recently worked on George's car brakes, to join in because George says, yes, my car couldn't brake. But honestly, it's because Tebogo did a poor workmanship on my brakes. My brakes did not work. You know, I took my car to him just because the brakes needed to be changed, you know. Over time in a car, you need to change your brakes, and that's the reason why George took his car to Tebogo. But Tebogo did a bad job, and George's brakes were not working, and as a result, caused an accident, right? So now we are going to issue a third party notice. So third party notice is issued by George to Deboho claiming contribution or indemnification for the accident that occurred between Sheila and George, Sheila being the plaintiff and George being the defendant. And then we have discussed this, then you have to set out there was alleged negligence in repairing the brakes, which George claimed caused or contributed to the accident. With Sheila, we have to now determine the extent of there was liability for the accident based on the quality of the brake repair work performed, or and then relief. We are now the contribution or full indemnification from Tebogo for any damages George may and then for the as a result of that, George may be ordered to pay Sheila. Procedural outcome is that, remember we mentioned this earlier, that we now have one proceedings. We are avoiding having different lawsuits between George and Tebogo. And then the benefits is really not that important. It's just for you to understand how a third party procedure. But a third party procedure, so suppose in an exam, they give you an example, ne? And then they ask you, they give you a scenario and then they ask you that what can your client do? If you see that, okay, my client has an action against a person, but in the same scenario, it is mentioned that the defendant has a claim against another person because this person caused this, or it is or rather, it is stated that the defendant states that so and so and so is the result of the accident having occurred. Then you know that, oh, okay, what the defendant can do is can bring a third party notice because you see, okay, there's a plaintiff, Sheila is claiming this, and then there's a defendant, right? The defendant did this, but the defendant also explains that, but as a result of one, two, three actions, this is why this happened, you know. I also believe that that person must be brought in. Then that means that should instantly think that should instantly click, sorry, that it's a third party procedure. And with these type of questions, like your interpleaders as well, they usually put your client on the side of the defendant. So they would say maybe your client is being sued by A, right? Your client is not disputing liability, but is also saying this other person contributed. So what remedy is available to your client, or how do you advise your client? You will advise your client to issue a third party notice to indemnify themselves and to also make sure that they do not carry the burden of the debt alone. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's short enough for you guys to understand and grasp what a third party procedure slash third party notice is. All the best for your board exam. And sorry about the noise, guys. I've got a toddler. So mid the session, she decided to come downstairs and disturb my peace. And there's no way that I'm gonna record a video all over again. Nonetheless, I hope you guys heard me and I hope you had a lovely session. Bye.